Hey, it's Paul. Welcome back to another video. Today, I thought I'd share with you my Helix preset for Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. It's a fantastic song, but it's actually really quite a challenge to play when you're the only guitar player in a band. Because although Green Day themselves are a one guitar band, when they play live, they actually play with two guitars up front, Billy Joe and Jason White, and then with a third guitarist in the back. And so as a single guitar player, you've got a lot of ground to cover. And so you need to have a pretty adaptable preset. There are actually 5 tones that you need to have in order to get this song down reasonably well. There's the intro, classic sort of vibrato piece. Then you go into the verse where you play sort of a mix of the vibrato, electric guitar and acoustic. And then in the chorus, it's full on overdriven electric guitar, then there's the solo, and then there's actually just a bit up in the song where it's just acoustic guitar. So what I've done, I've created a preset which enables me to do all of that with one guitar plugged into my Helix. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you some clips of me playing this song with the various tones, and then what I thought I'd do is get you to look at HX Edit with me, and then I talk you through the preset so you can see how it's built up. Cool, so over to me playing the song. Welcome to HX Edit, where you can see the preset for Boulevard of Broken Dreams. As you can see, it's quite a complex preset with quite a lot going on. So I'll try and break it down to make it easy to understand and for you then to be able to edit it as you'd like. So the first thing to understand is that we're taking one electric guitar and we are processing the output of that electric guitar in 2 different ways to get 2 different tones. So the top line of this preset is all about creating a distorted, overdriven Green Day type tone. The second line of this preset is all about taking exactly the same input and then processing it to sound like an acoustic guitar. Then what we do is in the bottom here, we combine the 2 together and output them through some common effects to the stereo outs. Those common effects, there's a volume block which is primarily there to give a solo boost and to allow you to adjust the volume of the overall preset pretty easily. There's a chorus block and a verb block here which stay exactly the same throughout the entire piece. And there's a delay block which switches on and off, and we'll come on to how that is used in a little while. So let's start off by talking about the overall signal path for both the acoustic and the electric guitar, and how we get those two tones, and then we'll talk about how we combine them to make the 5 different tones that we need to make the song work. Right, so the electric guitar tone is dealt with on the top line and is primarily driven by these first blocks here. So the first thing that happens is the electric guitar goes into a compressor. Now I stick this spread squeeze compressor on the front of pretty much every signal or every preset that I make. I kind of like what it does. The way I have it set is it just takes the harshness off of some of the high strings and just literally brings every string up to about the same level. And what it also does is it adds a bit of punch to the front of any amp that I put it in front of. And it seems to work particularly well with this Plicator clean amp that I use on all my presets, really. So that's there. You can choose to use it if you want. I like to have it on all the time, and I just leave it on. The next block is a prize drive. It's my favorite drive on the Helix. It's a Nobles ODR1, and really all that I do whenever I use this drive is have variations on the amount of drive and the amount of level. I think there might be a small change in drive and level between a couple of the snapshots on this preset, but nothing major. So you could swap this out for one of your own, or you could play around with it to your heart's content, but this is how I tend to like it set for this type of Green Day noise. As I've said, I then go into a Plicator clean. This is the Friedman Brown i100 clean channel. It is clean, so if I took off these 2 previous blocks here, that would be a pretty clean tone, hardly any breakup at all, with a humbucking guitar. I then run it into 2 speaker cabs, 2 4x12 Cali V30s. I mic them up slightly differently, slightly different orientations and distances and mics, but fundamentally 2 4x12s. And that's it. So that's the distorted guitar tone, that's the overdriven guitar tone that you hear throughout the entire song, with the exception of the acoustic guitar solo-y bit. I'll come on to the tremolo blocks in a minute, but let's talk about the acoustic guitar signal. So the acoustic guitar, again, it takes the same electric guitar input that we used on the first path, but what it does this time is it puts it through an acoustic simulator. The Helix acoustic sim's okay, actually. It sounds pretty good, even on humbuckers. So you saw me playing a humbucking guitar there. It sounds pretty good on humbuckers. I've not done anything really to it, apart from set it to jumbo and maybe turn the shimmer down a little bit. I can't remember actually, but it sounds okay. It's never going to fool anyone that it's an acoustic guitar, but in the mix and together with the electric guitar, it sounds great, and it's a good compromise. I then follow that by a low and high shelf EQ. Now, as you can see here, I've actually got it doing nothing. So, because the high gain and the low gain are both set to 0 dB. But what I tend to do is roll off the high gain, or roll down the high gain a bit. So basically cut the high frequencies a bit, as much as 5 dB actually, because I find that in some speakers particularly, that acoustic sim can sound a bit tinny, so I roll that off there, and that tends to work. So, and then we've got a bunch of gain blocks here, which are effective, most of which are acting as switches or tiny volume boosts. And I'll come on to how I use those in a minute. So we've basically got an electric overdriven tone and an acoustic tone here. The acoustic tone, let's talk about the rest of that signal chain first. So it comes through these gain blocks here, which again I'll come back to, drops down into this bottom path 2B here, goes through this pitch block, which is actually not on at all, so I could in fact delete that if I wanted to. I left it in there for another reason, but I can switch it on, and it can make quite a nice sort of 12-stringy type effect, which can add a bit of weight. Use it to taste, I would say. Yeah, I'd say I don't use it at all on this with my particular guitar, but if I had a slightly different guitar, then maybe I might want to. What I do use is this Glitz reverb, not set crazy or anything, but I like what it does to the acoustic sim. Once it comes out of the reverb, it goes, joins with the electric guitar, goes through the blocks, as I've already talked about. The electric guitar signal comes out of the speaker cabs and then goes into one of two tremolo blocks. These are set up identically in that, and we'll just highlight this particular one down here, in that the speed is set the same, the type of wave is set the same. I use this chop trem, so all these steps are set like that. The only thing that's, and the speed is set the same. The only thing that I change is the depth. Now the depth is kind of like a mix control. So imagine when the depth is set to 10, all of the output of that trem block is affected by the square wave oscillator. So everything you hear is going through that trem block and sounding like it's been affected by it. If you set that to 50% or 5, then half of the output of that trem block will sound like it's going through the oscillator, and the other half of it will sound straight up. And that's quite important because we need to have those different effects. If you set it to 0, then none of the signal that comes out of the trem block will sound like it's going through the oscillator, and it'll all sound like it's coming out of coming through the dry signal. So that's important, and there's a reason therefore that, and there is a reason we have two trem blocks, and I'll try and explain it as easily as I can in a moment. So let's talk about how we then use these various signal paths in combination with snapshots. So hopefully you all understand what snapshots are. Basically, they're presets within presets without any lag when you switch between them. Now I use 4 snapshots on this to get this tone. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I've got 5 different tones, but not 5 different snapshots. I've tried running it with 5 different snapshots, and I don't like it, and I'll explain why in a second. So I've made 4 snapshots to enable me to make this. The first snapshot is the one that's actually showing now, and that's the intro snapshot. So that's the classic intro, 100% oscillated square wave guitar, and it sounds a bit like this. Okay, so how do we get that tone? Well, basically we've got the overdriven guitar coming through that block there, which is off, so it doesn't do anything, coming through this block here, which is a gain block, which just boosts it a little bit, 1.2 dB, coming through this block, which is off, so it doesn't do anything, coming into this block, which is the second trem block that I talked about, which is set to 10. So every the driven signal which comes into this trem block is completely, when it comes out, all you can hear is that square wave oscillating type thing, which then comes straight through here and out. So how is it that I don't hear any acoustic guitar when that's happening? Because you don't hear any acoustic guitar in the intro. Well, the reason you don't hear any acoustic guitar is because of this block here. This block here is a switch, and as you can see, it's currently on, and it's currently set to minus 120 dB. So what that means is anything that comes into this block gets reduced in gain by 120 dB, which is essentially turning it off. So this block, when it's on, turns off this line altogether. So nothing gets out at the other end. So all you then hear is what comes off the top line here and what therefore goes through the bottom line here. So that's why you only hear that strongly oscillating, distorted guitar at the beginning. So what about when you go into the verse and then into the chorus? Well, this is when you use the main, I call the main snapshot. So when the the challenge that I had when I was first looking at this was that I tried to do it with two snapshots, one for verse and one for chorus, and I found it difficult to get the switch between the verse and the chorus right, because you need to kind of almost fade between the mixed acoustic and electric and the fully overdriven electric sound that you need for the chorus. And I found it really difficult to get the transition right without it sounding like too stuttering and getting the timing right and all that kind of stuff. So I decided to use the expression pedal to fade between the two, which is why I've got one snapshot for both main and chorus combined. So how did I do that? Well, the electric guitar tone is exactly the same as in the intro. What happens now, though, is it goes through this trem block up here. Now, this trem block is exactly the same as the one that we used in the intro, with the exception that when the expression pedal is in the heel down position, the depth or the mix is set to 5, which means that half of the tone that you hear coming out of that is going through the oscillator, and half of it is just straight overdriven guitar. And that's the effect we want. We want the effect kind of two guitarists, one playing straight up power chords and one playing the same sort of chords but through a vibrato. So that's what you get. It then goes through the same 1.3 dB amplifier. This is a switch, which we'll come on to in a bit later, which is currently off, so it doesn't do anything. Now the acoustic guitar is now coming into play. We want the acoustic guitar to be on, so we've turned the acoustic guitar on by turning off this switch here, this 120 dB switch. And we've got a couple of gain blocks in here which are doing nothing at the moment. So what you've got here is an electric signal which is partly vibrating and partly not, and an acoustic signal underneath it which is giving you that big 3 guitars in the room kind of sound. Both of those signals obviously then go onto the bottom here. The electric one goes through this signal chain here with this block not doing anything, going out here, and the acoustic guitar goes through the same blocks and then comes out here. So that's your verse tone, if you like. Now look what happens when I move into the chorus. When I move into the chorus, nothing happens in the front here. Everything stays the same. Overdrive stays the same, all that. But look what happens when I move from a heel down position to the toe down position on the expression pedal. Look at the depth number down here. You can see that it goes from 5 all the way to 0. And what that is doing is essentially fading out the tremolo effect and just giving you the full overdriven guitar tone, which is exactly what you want in the chorus. So let's bring that back into the verse position. Let's have a look at what happens here. This is, as we've said, gives you a 1.3 dB boost, 1.3 dB cut during the verse. But when you go into the chorus, as you can see, as I move the expression pedal, we get a 3 dB boost, which again basically turns the electric guitar up. So not only are you reducing or taking away the vibrato effect, the tremolo effect, you're actually turning up the volume a bit of your overdriven guitar. The only other thing that happens is that you don't want as much, or hardly any actually, acoustic guitar to be heard during the chorus. So you can see this block here is normally doing nothing. It's normally, during the verse, it's just 0 dB boost, so nothing. But as you go from being verse to chorus, you can see that the there is a cut in the acoustic guitar signal of minus 13 dB, which, believe me, effectively removes it altogether. And that's it. So that's how you move seamlessly between the verse and the chorus. And you saw me when I did the demo using that expression pedal to fade between the two, and I think it works better than a simple cut. Okay, so that's the big challenge, if you like, the overcome, I think, anyway. The last couple of pieces are relatively straightforward. So you then, when you've completed your chorus, you go into a very short half verse, and towards the end of that verse, I move the expression pedal back into the chorus position before hitting the solo snapshot. So now we're in solo mode. Let's have a look at what happens with the solo. The first thing is that it completely turns off the acoustic line here using one of these minus 120 dB switches, and we've turned off all the tremolo. And the only other thing that we've done, or the two other things that we've done, is we've turned on this quite present digital stereo delay. You might think there's a bit too much mix on here. I think it sounds, I need to fill quite a big space when I'm doing this solo, because when I drop out of playing the chorus chords, there's only a little bit of keyboard and bass in the background, and it sounds a bit empty, so I need it to be quite big. So I use quite a high mix on the stereo delay. You might, if you've got another guitarist, want to pull that down quite a bit, or even turn it off. It's up to you. And the only other thing that happens is that there is a solo boost. So when we are in every other snapshot, that number there is plus 2 dB. When we're in solo, it goes up to plus 5, so you've got a 3 dB boost. So once we've finished the solo, we then, we've still got our expression pedal toe down. I've not touched it at all. We then go into a short acoustic only section. So there's another snapshot which just says acoustic. All that does when you go to the acoustic only section is well, the first thing it does is it turns off this electric guitar line on the top here by turning on this minus 120 dB switch. It turns on the acoustic guitar line by turning off this 120 dB switch here, and we also get a little bit of boost to that acoustic guitar tone because it needs to fill a bigger space, so I've given it a 4 dB boost. I've also left on the delay again to try and fill some space. I may choose to turn the mix down on this using a snapshot on the mix control. Actually, I haven't decided yet. It might get a bit much, so that one may change, or I may turn it off altogether. But aside from that, that's the acoustic tone. And then obviously once you've finished that acoustic section, it goes straight into the final sort of part of the song, which is a chorus followed by the outro, which is essentially the same tone as you use in the chorus. So you go back to the chorus snapshot, and because you're still toe down on the expression pedal, everything is in the right place. So you've got no tremolo effect at all going on, and you've got your maximum gain that you were using during the chorus on here as well. Obviously, you've still got some acoustic guitar, but you've turned it pretty much off. You've turned off the delay as well, so you're back to your kind of your core chorus tone, and that's how you finish the song. So I hope that makes sense. And so let's just close out with one or two remarks. Well, congratulations for making it this far. That was pretty hardcore, wasn't it, going through all of that stuff? Helix presets, it can be really easy, but thankfully they can actually be pretty complex, and you do some amazing stuff with the Helix. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope it inspired you a little bit to play around a bit more. If you're playing this song in your band, hopefully you can use it. I'll try and find a way to upload the preset and give you a link in the description so that you can try it for yourselves. If you'd like to see more videos like this where we look at how to get a certain tone, then let me know and I will do my best to show you. And if you'd like to see anything else on the channel, whether it's reviews of guitars, whether it's reviews of other bits of kit, then let me know. And there will be more stuff coming soon, so watch this space. So thanks again for taking the time to watch the video. Please, if you could, like and subscribe to the channel. That would be really helpful. We are growing and we've got some cool stuff coming. Anyway, take care. See you soon.